Picture a house. 3 bedrooms, a yard, one salary paying for all of it, and a vacation every single summer. That wasn't a rich family. That was the definition of average. Now, here's the part that should bother you. You probably earn more than that family ever did, and you can't afford their life. Nothing about you got worse. You're not lazier than they were. You're not dumber with money. But something invisible moved, and your brain never got the memo. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly what moved and why you've been blaming the wrong suspect your entire adult life. You're 8 years old. It's a Tuesday night, and you're lying on the living room carpet while your dad reads the paper. He works one job, your mom stays home, and somehow the mortgage gets paid, the fridge stays full, and there's a plastic pool in the backyard. You don't know it yet, but your brain is taking a photograph. This house, this life, this is what normal costs. This is what a regular job buys. The photograph gets filed away, deep in the part of your mind that decides what you should be able to afford. And here's the thing about that photograph. It never updates. Most of the street lives some version of that life, and the parts your family didn't have, your dad's stories filled in. His dad bought a house on a factory wage. The photograph in your head is really 2 photographs, stacked, and both of them taught you the same price of normal. You grew up assuming that default would still be there when it was your turn. But it wouldn't be, and nobody warned you. Now you're 34. You did everything the plan said. You got the education. You got the job. A good job. The number on your offer letter would have made your dad's eyes water. However, run the math on your own kitchen table tonight, and it doesn't work. The rent, or the mortgage, if you somehow got one, eats a bite of your paycheck your parents would have called insane. When your dad bought his house, it cost about 3 years of an average salary. Today, that same kind of house costs closer to 6. Same house, same square footage, double the life it takes to buy it. But it's not just the house. It's everything the photograph included. The second car, the kids' activities, the dentist, the summer trip that used to just happen. So you start cutting. You cancel subscriptions. You skip the coffee because some guy online told you the coffee was the problem. And at the end of the month, the number barely moves. That's when the second stack lands, the quiet one. Your friend Theo just posted from a beach in Portugal. Your cousin bought a house. Everyone else seems to be pulling it off, so the problem must be you. You start hiding it, declining invitations with fake excuses, doing the math again at midnight, looking for the mistake you must be making. You don't know it yet, but you're not making a mistake. You're measuring with one. Before we go further, you need to see a number. One of the biggest money surveys in America asked people a simple question in 2026. Are you living paycheck to paycheck? 54% said yes. 5 years ago, that number was 42. Read that again. In 5 years, millions of additional people slid into the exact position you're in. And in that same survey, more than half of Americans now say they simply can't get ahead, no matter what they do. Now, think about what that means. Did half the country suddenly forget how to budget? Did 54% of adults all become bad with money at the same time? Of course not. When half the players are losing, the problem isn't the players. It's the scoreboard. I'm about to show you the exact trick your brain runs every time you look at your paycheck, and then the one move that shuts it off. But first, you need to meet the person who showed it to you. Because until someone points it at you directly, you can't see it. That's what makes it so dangerous. It's a Sunday. You're at Dana's kitchen table. She's the one person you can say it to. And you finally say it out loud. I make good money. Why does it feel like I'm drowning? Dana doesn't give you a lecture. She slides a pen across the table and asks one question. Good money. Compared to what? And there it is. Because the honest answer is compared to the photograph. compared to your dad's salary from a world that no longer exists. Psychologists have a name for the first half of this trap. It's called money illusion. Your brain judges money by the number printed on it, not by what it actually buys. $60,000 sounds like more than your dad's 35, so your brain files you as doing better. And here's the proof it works on you. Remember the first minute of this video? You earn more than that family ever did? That sentence just ran the trick on you. It compared raw numbers across 40 years, and your brain accepted it without blinking, which triggers the second half of the trap, the reference point. Your brain never judges your life in a vacuum. It judges the gap between where you are and where the photograph says you should be. Bigger salary, smaller life. The gap between them is that heavy feeling you carry into every checkout line. Here's the sentence that changes everything. The feeling of being broke isn't measuring your money. It's measuring the distance to a picture that's 40 years out of date. You've been running a race against a finish line that someone quietly moved and calling yourself slow. So what do you actually do with this? Back at that kitchen table, Dana flips the paper over and has you draw a new photograph. Not your dad's life, yours. What does security actually cost you this year, in these prices, in this world? Rent, food, a cushion. One thing that makes life feel like living. That's the single move. Reprice normal in today's dollars and measure yourself against that number, never the inherited one. And something strange happens when you do. Some of the gap closes instantly because part of it was never real. It was illusion, doing what illusions do. However, and this matters, part of the gap is real. Housing really did outrun salaries. The squeeze is not in your head, and this video is not here to gaslight you about arithmetic. But now you're fighting the real fight, with a real number against a real target, not shadowboxing a photograph. And people who fight the real fight make different moves. They negotiate harder, they move cities, they build the cushion first, because they've stopped wasting energy on shame. The shame was the illusion's fuel. Cut the fuel, and the whole machine goes quiet. So here's the reframe to walk away with. You were never failing. You were measuring your life with a broken ruler, one that was handed to you before you could read, calibrated to a world that packed up and left. The middle-class life didn't disappear. The price tag moved. And a brain that judges numbers instead of what numbers buy never saw it move. If money stress has been keeping you up at night, you're in the majority now, not the minority. Be patient with yourself. You've been playing a rigged comparison for 20 years, and you still made it here. The moment you swap their photograph for your own number, the drowning feeling loses its grip. Because for the first time, you know exactly how deep the water actually is. And a person who knows the depth can swim. If your brain has been running comparisons like this your whole life without asking you first, that's exactly what this channel is for. Subscribe, and we'll catch the next one together.